Hello everyone, welcome to this particular lecture recording, and in this lecture we shall have a good look at the computer parts and tools. The learning objectives for this lecture are: 1. Learn about the various parts inside a computer case and how they connect together and are compatible. 2. Learn how to protect yourself and the equipment against the dangers of electricity when working inside a computer case. 3. Learn about tools you will need as a PC hardware technician and safety precautions while working around computer equipment. What's inside the case? A computer case is also known as a computer chassis, tower, system unit, base unit, or simply case. Also sometimes incorrectly referred to as the CPU or hard drive. It is the enclosure that contains most of the components of a computer. The computer case holds power supply, motherboard, processor, memory modules, expansion cards, hard drive, optical drive, and other devices. It comes in various forms. Forms maybe in terms of tower, desktop, laptop, or all in one case. A tower case sits upright and can hold several drives. Desktop case lies flat and sometimes holds the monitor. The laptop case is the mobile computers. And all-in-one case is used with all-in-one computer systems. Refer to the diagram on the slide. An overview of what's inside the case is represented. Refer to the image again and try to locate the labels. 1. You have the power supply. Try to also locate the optical drive. The optical drive is the CD or the DVD drive. Processor. Underneath the processor, you have the processor fan. Have a look at the hard drives. Currently, there are 2 hard drives connected to this computer case. Motherboard. The RAM slots or the memory slots. And then we have the SATA data cables. This is orange in color. What's inside the case? Motherboard, sometimes called the system board. It is the largest and most important circuit board in a computer system. Processor, central processing unit, or the CPU, processes most of the data and instructions for the entire system. CPUs generate heat and require a heatsink and fan, together called the processor cooler. A heatsink consists of metal fins that draw heat away from a component. Expansion cards, also called adapter cards, a circuit board that provides more ports than those provided by the motherboard. Today, most ports are provided by the motherboards. Memory modules. The common memory module in a computer system is the random access memory, or the acronym RAM. Pardon me, or the abbreviation RAM. RAM is the temporary storage for data and instructions as they are being processed by the CPU. Dual inline memory module, or the abbreviation DIMM, D-I-M-M, slots hold memory modules. Hard drives may also be called the hard disk drive, or the abbreviation HDD. It is the permanent storage used to hold data and programs. Other types of drives include optical drive and tape drives. Power supply, also called the power supply unit, or the abbreviation PSU. It receives and converts house current so that the components inside the case can use it. Mostly come with dual voltage sector switch, allows switching input voltage from 115 volts to 220 volts. Drives, their cables and connectors. Hard drives, there are two standards for hard drives. First one is SATA and the other one is PATA, or also called as IDE. So serial ATA standard or SATA is mostly used in today's world or in today's computers. Parallel ATA or PATA is slower than SATA. It is also called as IDE interface, uses 40-pin ribbon cabin and connector, two connectors on a motherboard for two data cables, accommodates up to 4 IDE devices, and uses a 4-pin. The next drive is the floppy drive. A floppy is generally 3.5-inch disk holding close to about 1.44 megabytes of data, uses a 34-pin twisted cable, can hold up to 2 drives. Protecting yourself and equipment against electrical dangers. Important to understand electricity and how to protect yourself and equipment against it. Must learn to prevent getting shocked or damaging a component. Measures and properties of electricity. Alternative current, AC, oscillates between negative and positive voltage. House current is AC and oscillates 60 times in 1 second. DC or direct current travels in one direction. Type of current used by most electronic devices. It has rectifier and an inverter. So a rectifier is a device that converts AC to DC. Inverter is a device that converts DC to AC. Transformer, devices that changes the ratio of voltage to current. Alternative current or AC travels on a hotline from a power station. Alternating current or AC returns to the power station on a neutral line. When AC follows an unintended path, one with less resistance, a short can occur. A short is basically a sudden increase in flow of electricity that can create a sudden increase in temperature. The neutral line is grounded to prevent uncontrolled electricity in a short. Grounding. Grounding is a line that is connected directly to the earth so that the electricity can flow into the earth. Protecting yourself against electrical shock and burns. When working with any electrical device, disconnect power if you notice a dangerous situation that might lead to electrical shock or fire. Potential dangers. Some potential dangers might include power cord is frayed or damaged, water or other liquid is spilled near, device has been dropped or physically damaged, smell a strong electronic odor, power supply or fence make a whining noise, smoke is observed or cases feel unusually warm. Protecting against electrical shock and burns continued. When working on sensitive low voltage equipment, such as a motherboard or processor, ground yourself with an anti-static grounding bracelet connected to a ground. When working with power supplies, printers, and CRT monitors that contain capacitors, do not ground yourself because power can flow through you to the ground and you may get shocked. Power supplies and monitors are considered a field replaceable unit. which means you are expected to know how to replace, not to repair it. Use a fire extinguisher that is rated to put out electrical fires. Fire extinguisher ratings include classes A, B, and C. Class A is whereby you tend to use water to put out fires caused by wood, paper, or other combustibles. Class B, where you put out fires caused by liquids such as gasoline, kerosene, and oil. Class C is the use of non-conductive chemicals to put out fire caused by electricity. Refer to the fire extinguisher in the diagram. The fire extinguisher classification here is Class C. So Class C means that you end up using non-conductive chemicals to put out fire caused by electricity. Protecting the equipment against static shock, or ESD. Electrostatic discharge is electrical charge at rest. When two objects with dissimilar electrical charges touch, electricity passes between them until charges are equal. ESD can cause two types of damages. These damages are catastrophic failure, that is, it destroys the component; upset failure, that means it damages the component so that it does not work well. Both types permanently affect the devices. Protect the equipment against static electricity, or ESD continued. To protect against EDS, always ground yourself with one or more of the following static control methods. Ground bracelet. Always use ESD strap, anti-static wrist strap, or ESD bracelet. Attach bracelet to the computer case to ground it. Ground mats, also called ESD mats, often used by bench technicians who repair and assemble computers at workbenches or assembly lines. Static shielding bags, also called anti-static bags. Anti-static gloves, also called ESD gloves, prevents ESD between you and a device when wearing. To protect equipments against static electricity, or ESD, follow these simple rules. Rule number 1. When passing a circuit board or other component to another person, ground yourself and touch the other person before you pass it. Rule number 2. Leave components inside anti-static bags until ready to use them. Rule number 3. Work on hard floors, not carpet. Rule number 4. Don't work on a computer in a cold and dry atmosphere. Rule number 5. Remove packing tape and cellophane from around work area. These are the materials that attract ESD. Rule number 6. Keep components away from hair and clothing. These materials are most likely to catch fire very, very easily. Some essential tools used by PC repair technicians. So these tools include ground bracelet, ground mat, anti-static gloves, flathead screwdriver, Phillips head or cross head screwdriver, Torx screwdriver set, size T15, insulated tweezers, extractor, OS recovery CD or DVD. Many other non-essential tools exist. Use a toolbox to store these tools in it. Post-diagnostic cards. It helps recover, report computer errors and conflicts at power on self-tests. Posts. Tests performed by the startup BIOS. Post-diagnostic cards. First of all is BIOS, which means basic input and output system. Data and instructions stored on ROM chips. ROM BIOS chips are basically a type of firmware. There are three purposes served by motherboard ROM BIOS. These include system BIOS, manage simple devices. Startup BIOS, start the computer. BIOS setup, changes motherboard settings. CMOS RAM includes date, time, and port configurations. Flash ROM, ROM chips that can be overwritten. Power supply tester. The image in the slide gives a illustration of what a power supply tester looks like. The power supply tester basically measures the output of each power supply connector. The image shows an illustration of a digital multimeter. A digital multimeter measures several characteristics of electricity in a variety of devices. The diagram in this slide illustrates a loop back plug. A loop back plug is used to test a port in a computer or other device to make sure the port is working. It may also test the throughput or the speed of port. Proper use of cleaning pads and solutions. Most cleaning solutions contain flammable and poisonous materials. We must ensure to take care when using them. A material safety data sheet explains how to properly handle substances such as chemical solvents and how to dispose of them. Usually comes in packages with the chemicals. Organizations may require an accident report to be filled out if accidents occur using dangerous products. Managing cables. Make sure cables are in a safe place. People can trip over cables left on floor, called a trip hazard. If cables must run across a path or where someone sits, use a cable or cord cover to avoid any form of accidents. Lifting heavy objects. These are the guidelines that must be used when lifting heavy objects. Reason being is to avoid back injury. Decide which side of object to face so that the load is most balanced. Stand close to the object with feet apart. Keep back straight, bend knees, and grip load. Lift with legs, arms, and shoulders, not with the back or stomach. In other words, ensure that the pressure is applied on legs, arms, and shoulders, and not the pressure resting on your back. With pressure resting on your back, there's a likely chance that you may get a back strain or cause injury to your back. Keep the load close to your body and avoid twisting your body while holding it. To put object down, keep back straight and lower object by bending knees. In other words, you are again not pushing pressure on your back, but rather on your knees. Summary. Ports on a computer might include video, network card, sound, SPDIF, USB, FireWire, eSATA, and PS2. Internal computer components include the motherboard, processor, expansion cards, DIMM modules, hard drive, optical drive, floppy drive, tape drive, and power supply. Form factors used by cases, power supplies, and motherboards are ATX and micro ATX. Power connectors include the two 20-pin P1, 24-pin P1, 4-pin, and 8-pin auxiliary motherboard, 4-pin Molex, 15-pin SATA, 4-pin FDD, 6-pin PCIe, and 8-pin PCIe. Standards used by hard drive and other drives to interface with motherboard and power supply are SATA or serial ATA and parallel ATA PATA. Units measured to measure electricity includes volts, amps, OHMs, joules, and watts. Microcomputers require DC, which is converted from AC by the computer's power supply. A power supply and CRT monitor contain dangerous charges even when unplugged. Never use water to put out an electrical fire. To protect against ESD, use a ground bracelet, ground mat, anti-static bags, and anti-static gloves. Special tools a PC support technician might need include a post-diagnostic guard, power supply tester, multimedia, and loop back plugs. A MSDS explains how to handle chemicals. Be careful not to lift a heavy object in a way that can hurt your back. Make sure cables are not trip hazards. This concludes your lecture for the week. Thank you.